We are on the recording mode, so everyone, welcome to Blab2Learn, and we have the awesome Jesse Paul on our Blab today, and then I also have my co-host Falguni to join me and share her thoughts. So to introduce ourselves, I am Malhar Barai. I work with Tech Mahindra. I am a group manager for the media vertical. I handle a lot of say media and entertainment clients and some marketing stuff. And over to you, Falguni.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you so much for coming to our Blab2Learn. First of all, welcome to all of you and all the participants who have joined us today. So something about myself, my name is Falguni. And I'm, of course, Professor Falguni Vasauda. I teach at MICA. Strategy at MICA since now, I think, 12 years, in teaching since 17 years. Passionate teacher, a big social media enthusiast, a believer of technology. And that's how I and Malhar collaborated on starting, Blab2Learn as a platform. And we are privileged today to have Jesse here. In fact, Jesse, just if I can tell you, people are actually asking me, oh, the same Jesse Paul from the Paul Writer. So I said, yes, the same. We are not having any fake person with us on the show. So welcome to the show, and over to you.
Well, thanks for having me. And this is the first time I'm on this channel. So, I'm going to experiment with the format, and you guys can, tell me when it's going wrong. Quick introduction about myself. I've been a marketer for roughly 2 decades. Most of it has been in the IT industry. And I started in the days when there was no social media. You actually had to get permission to use a computer, to now when, you can't believe that you couldn't talk directly to your customers. So it's been a long way. And so today's topic is, social media is pretty much 2010. Moreover, real marketers actually do community marketing. And the reason I chose this topic is that, I find a lot of people still talking about, how they're going to be on social and so on. And yes, everybody is on social, no doubt. But I think the customers have moved on a little bit, and the way they use social has changed. So they're not just there sharing their little pictures and, how happy they are about their kid's birthday. But they have moved to using Twitter as a complaints channel. They have used to, gone to moving Facebook as, oh, here's where I buy my 1+2 or 1+1. Somebody, any friend of mine, give me a voucher. So, in many ways, they have already moved it to a commerce kind of an engagement. And the clients, however, the brands are still living in the outbound social communication, and those who are really good have moved to the second stage, which is they're at least doing inbound. So they're taking feedback, or they have customer care, those things. But what I wanted to talk about is that, all these brands have now accumulated a lot of love. They have, tens of thousands of followers and so on. But what are they doing with those followers? Apart from standard email type communication, if you will, what are they doing, to enhance, shall we say, the loyalty and the love amongst these followers? So that's really where I'm going to go. And I want to check with you, do you want to ask me questions beforehand, or should I just kind of go on with the topic?
Yeah, so before others ask the question, just a small request. If you want to share this blab with your followers, you can use the thing on the right which says tell a bird, tell your ant, so you can use that. Yeah.
Tell a little bird.
If you want to push a question to Jesse right now, you can use the comments on the screen below. We will open the seat in 5 minutes. If someone wants to join and ask the question live to Jesse, yes, you can do it. So just wait for 5 minutes. We will start off with some Q&A. Jesse will give some introduction.
And if before we open it up for all, to all subscribers, a little bit more about this treasure sitting in front of you called Jessie Paul. So she's an IIM Calcutta pass out, and she started her career with O&M, Ogilvy and Mather, from where she shifted to the IT side, the client side, the technology marketing side, from Infosys to iGate to she became the technology services, where she, of course, became this entrepreneur, and she's now on her own running Paul Writer as one of the largest, marketing community and marketing advisory services. And Jessie, I was extremely impressed by how you yourself are demonstrating through your Paul Writer how to build a network, a community, and how to use it to the advantage of the community. So that was wonderful. It is quite inspirational for all of us. So if you can talk about a little bit about this journey that you did from agency to client to becoming an entrepreneur.
Right. So I started my life in the agency, and I really did want to do agency straight out of IIM, even though in those days no agency actually was coming for campus. So I actually went door to door in Bangalore and asked for a job, and they all actually said no. They said, "You're from IIM, so you won't join an agency, you will quit." So finally, I had to call somebody's friend and literally beg them to give me this job, which was half the salary of what I was going to get in Reliance, which was another job.
Right.
But it was a great investment, really. It was like 3 wonderful years. And the reason I actually wanted to start in advertising was that in my summer internship and in my previous job in engineering, I felt that clients tend to not have a good grasp of communication because it's outsourced to the agency, and since they had no first-hand experience, they had to take whatever the agency said for granted. So being in the agency was a great background in terms of learning the nuts and bolts of advertising and marketing. Though purely from a financial perspective, it's not very viable. And so then after that, I joined Infosys, and this was when they were setting up their marketing team. And they were very happy to find an engineer plus MBA plus someone with advertising. So that's how I, got into that. And that was great fun. That was 5 years. And some of the ideas for community building actually started there. Because at the time, Infosys was very small. So when I joined, it had only 2,000 employees, and it was around 200 million. And one of the challenges we had was how do we actually, beat an Accenture or an IBM with like 1/10 of whatever they were doing. And we found 2-3 routes, and one of the routes was definitely that a lot of the CIOs that we wanted to connect with were actually Indian alumni. So that was one community-ish route that we were taking. The second is, which went on to become a large campaign for around 10 years, was that we were able to associate with the Wharton School for the Business Transformation Award. So it became the Wharton Infosys Business Transformation Award. And at the time, all we paid was $20,000 for that partnership. But that gave us access into their alumni network. And so, they had community activities in which Infosys could now, to some extent, participate and gain access to their community. And that worked really well for us because literally Wharton was introducing Infosys to their alumni. And from there, I went to iGate, which was a very different situation, much smaller firm, trying to make a difference. We were trying to do a different pricing model, different everything. And there again, we worked on the customer community. So iGate at that time did not have a customer forum, so that was the first thing that we started. So if you look at B2B marketing, by and large, it has a community feel. And then when I joined Wipro, by then social media was actually happening. In fact, there was a community site called Second Life, or a gaming site. You could literally build a virtual campus and have avatars where you're going for things. It was a big craze at the time. IBM even had a policy for its employees to behave on Second Life. They had created an office, training camp, a lot of things out there. Finally, it didn't actually take off the way we expected, but it was a good experience in using social media to go beyond a two-way communication to an actual 3D experience, because we were able to build a simulated campus, and that kind of thing is very, very useful and a good experience at the time of a two-way more than a two-way communication. But this was still the early days. So we had LinkedIn groups, which was, I think, the first element of community building. Facebook was very, very nascent. I mean, hardly any business users were on Facebook in those days. And Twitter, didn't even exist, literally speaking. It did, but very rare, few people. I remember there was one experience where we were just setting up the Twitter handle, and we had a query from someone, and we went back to the domain expert and said, "Can you share an answer for this?" And they came back with this huge white paper. They first said it will take us time, and they came back with a white paper. We were like, "You have to say it in 140 characters." I said, "Sorry, it's not possible," and they went off. So those were the early days. The last 5 years has further, experimental, and we've been able to do various things, so much so that while many of our clients are in the IT space, one of our earlier non-IT clients was Bhartiya City. And one of the techniques that was used to publicize the location of this new housing community was, like rock concerts. So we partnered with rock concerts to get people in. Now, 3 years later, that building a huge complex is kind of ready for occupation. The first business guys have moved in, and now we're expecting the residents to move in from next year. Now, though we're no longer working with them, the client has now started a community portal. I think the whole plan of this place is that residents can interact with each other. It isn't just that they interact with the builders, but we also want residents to interact with each other. So, I think community has a role to play in all of this. And as a marketer, I like to shape the dialogue. Increasingly, my focus has moved from pure marketing to a community approach where the customers will help you to market your products or to better understand your products, and pretty much they will help you to sell it to themselves. Literally, it's like a crowdsourced kind of a model, rather than the hardcore. Please buy my stuff. Please buy my stuff. It's so good. It's so good. And so like somebody like Maggie, for example, I think they had a massive equity base in India, a lot of very good users.
Yeah.
But perhaps if they had also gone one step more and made that tangible community, they would have had more resources to actually withstand the troubles in which they are in. So the trouble today is that Maggie has a huge fan club, but it's very virtual and they don't know where to find them. So they don't know the users as an individual, and therefore they're still relying on mass media, which for a brand with this huge amount of pull is a bit of a surprise. So, I think it's been a very interesting journey. Along the way, I wrote a book on no money marketing, which now it's probably a little outdated because it doesn't include channels such as this. So time for a revamp. But the principles are the same. Any brand to stand out has to be very clear about who it is, why someone should buy them, and how are they different from anyone else. And they have to look at low-cost channels to actually communicate this message to them.
Okay. So maybe we can ask our subscribers to us questions because Mallar, I think, has some problem and he has gone off air for a while. His browser has crashed. These are also like real-time technology problems. So if you can write in the chat window, all our subscribers, right? If you have any question for Jesse Paul at this point in time, right? And Mallar is soon coming on air. Yeah. Question that we can take from people who are participating today on building communities, on social media, on marketing, that she has written, on Paul Writer as an organization. Any question that you have for Jesse Paul, if you can take it. And Malhar, you are now again back with us?
Back.
Yeah. if you want to open the seat for people
Yes,
to
the
join
seat
in.
is open right now. So anyone who wants to say come over and ask a question to Jesse, yeah, it's open. So we have say about 10 more minutes. Okay, 15 more minutes. So any question, yes. So meanwhile, yes, Jesse, before someone jumps in, I just wanted to ask you, say the choice of topics. So it's like, yeah, I understand. Say brands are moving over to communities, but still, I don't think many brands know how to handle the community. How say they still want gatekeepers to be there and say try to still be the salesy kind rather than the engagement kind. So how do you see that happening? Or
So that is definitely one of the questions people ask. But in fairness, there are some brands that have really understood the community, and they've always been community oriented. It's just that now they have the technology to make it work. So I would give the example of, say, the Harley users group or the Royal Enfield group. So, like Maggie, they had a lot of really passionate users, and what we've been able to do is to have a lot of offline activities to connect them. Online communities, something that works really well is Team BHP, where people just, for the love of it, want to sit and write, essay type questions and answers, and the state of the road between Salem and Trichy, and put pictures and which dhaba to eat. So that comes from passion, and I think the reason why these communities work so well is that they have stayed away from sales. So yes, when you come for a hog rally, sure, you'll see the latest bikes, but they don't send out a mailer to you saying, please come and therefore you can see the latest bike. It's just an understood thing when you come to hang out with your guys, I'm going to show you some stuff. And, for others also to come in, one of the biggest questions I get asked is, what if I do this and, people only come to complain? So one is that, people are also a little careful. So particularly on something like Facebook, I don't want to be seen as this person who's forever ranting, right? I mean, it goes to everyone. And if you see Blab, it specifically says that, the Twitter is tell a little bird, but if it's Facebook, it's tell your aunt, right? So you don't want to tell your aunt that you bought this product and, it backfired, you couldn't return it. Because then you know that auntie will call you and say, but, my machine also is not working. Whoever did the servicing for your washing machine, can you get them to do it for me? And soon you will be on the auntie network fixing everybody else's washing machines because they figured you have some clout out there, right? So people are a little careful about what they bring in the public domain. I also think people are far more open today to taking the help of others to fix their problems. In the sense that if my browser crashes, I don't mind asking another user how to fix it, as opposed to feeling that I must call the Microsoft or Apple or whoever it is directly and find out. I'm more likely to just go online and say, hey, it's not working, and somebody will be, I use this patch and it worked for me and whatever, right? So I think we are clear. And the only reason where people would want to go for a rant is when they feel that, despite going through the proper channels, they have not received an answer. So then they get really, upset. And of course, it's a question of also coaching people as to what is the appropriate channel, what is the timeline of the response. You have to educate your customers a little bit. But I also think that, there's no way that we're going to avoid having customers come together. Earlier it was a Yahoo group. So if you take the case of India, Yahoo groups existed for alumni, it existed for residents, it existed for a lot of things, right? So, and these are facilitated by the guys who sold you the product or the apartment or the whatever. The colleges were really involved even in their own alumni groups. But where there is a passion, where there is a need, customers always come together and find a way to share their experiences. What thing now does is that it provides you with a structure to actually put it together, control the conversation, and also to monetize this community that you have.
Right. No,
I
so,
also believe,
sorry, go ahead, Falguni.
yeah, so Jesse, I also believe that as more and more news is being consumed peer to peer rather than from authentic, credible sources, like peer is becoming the next credible source. So I think the power of communities increases all the more. The relevance of community building increases all the more because your source information, education is all peer to peer now in the age of social media, of course.
Yes, and that's actually a consequence of the decline of traditional media. So
Yeah,
it's partly that not everyone is now consuming the same media, and partly because of the rise of paid media, you're not too sure, how many are, like, is it a real evaluation, or has someone, what we call native
yeah.
advertising is nothing but advertorial. But advertorial that doesn't
Hmm.
say it is advertorial. So in this situation, you do start looking for your friends, and and even in that now, you're not very sure if all of them are giving you an unbiased opinion because you also have referral targets and so on.
Right,
They
right.
have perks, they have this and that. So increasingly, it is a trust relationship that you must have with your peers, that you believe what they're telling you, and and I think it's, perhaps as marketers, we're even more cynical because we know about sites like a Fiverr where I could pretty much, get myself some fans who would actively come out and promote me on any network. So I think more and more people are questioning the creds of a person who's giving them
Yeah, yeah.
advice,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
really, if it's like a $10 thing, you probably don't care. But if it's like $1,000 purchase, you really want to be sure that this peer network is really a peer network and not some random people you picked up along the way in Facebook.
Right, right.
But I do want to say that as traditional media declines, you will increasingly see the rise of communities as the first source of information for users. So I can see, like, in industries like automobiles and motorbikes, and these kinds of slightly more prestigious uh, consumer durables kind of thing. I would rather listen to an end user than go by the ads or the reviews on traditional media. And more so if it's a really niche kind of a product or a part that I'm looking for.
Right, right, right.
So if I have a bike is fine, but if I'm into rallies and I want to know specifically what to use, I'm more
Right.
likely to trust them than the company website.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Malar, I think we have a question here from Rohan.
You're right. So I'll take up the question. So Rohan is
Yeah.
asking, I think community building works much better for established brands. What are the chances of success for smaller brands slash startups with community building?
Okay, so my answer is everybody is a small brand once. So, and the big brands aren't very good at community building, as we have found out. And I will give you two examples of small companies that worked with a nice community. One is the Indian noodle brand called Ching Secret, which I think launched probably less than 10 years ago, 7 to 8 years ago. And they cultivated the community on Twitter right from the beginning. And they used it
Wow.
actually as a supply chain tool as well. So you tweeted saying, hey, I went to the shop and I couldn't find Ching Secret. Within one day, they would have stocking in there. And the way they made it a true community was the quality of the responses was driven by the fact that the top 30 people in senior management, this was on a company size of probably 100, 150 at the time. Top 30 people had to take turns to spend half an hour monitoring their Twitter handle and respond personally to any query, product question, anything that came up. So what you were getting was not some manufactured, kind of a thing, but not an outsourced answer, but an actual response from a senior management person who could take charge. And I think that was a big differentiator because even today, if you look at any of the large brands, not one person in a senior position in the organization is tracking the fee. Invariably, you will get, we have noted your problem and a number has been issued to you.
Right.
The only exception actually is Mr. Anand Mahindra, who shows up on Twitter. And it makes a big difference, right? Trust.
Right.
So I think, the small versus big, it's up to you. My advice for a smaller brand, however, is that you are you're unlikely to have passionate people for your brand, and therefore you're better off looking at a horizontal. So you might look at, say, a women's issue or a fashion issue. So you might have a community around your area of expertise as opposed to your brand or end users. So that would be the only difference. But you have an amazing opportunity. And speaking from experience, so Paul Writer is 5 years old. We're not funded. It's built on my adoption fund to start with, and later on it's organic. But we've not had a major challenge in building the community because it's on the horizontal marketing. So I'm not saying that you love Paul Writer. I'm only saying you must love marketing. I hope that answers the question.
Oh yeah, no, you said 2 brands, so I was just wondering what was the other brand. Was it Paul Writer?
Yes.
One was Change Secret, other one was?
So Tech Mahindra is an example of a larger brand that has attempted to build like a Twitter-based community. And Paul Writer definitely does work as a community, and I would still say we are a small brand.
All right. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
And also to answer, same thing about the community is, I think it works best when it's a combination of online and offline.
Right.
So it can't be a pure online thing. You have to meet your members or facilitate their meeting somehow.
Right. So just to take your thought further, tweet up meets that keep happening even for Twitter communities.
Yeah.
And that adds a lot of credibility, and the person offline as well. I think that builds up a little more synergy, to your online community as a platform. Yeah?
Right.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we have.
There's another question.
Yeah, we have one more question coming up. So, it's how do you feel? How do you feel about using user-generated content for building social communities? Sorry, that's a long question.
So I think if you are going to build a real community, you have to use user-generated content. It isn't possible for you to actually write your own content and expect that the community will like it. So you have to. The second thing is that by and large, if you look at a community, if I can just share my little structure, you have to focus on, the first step is of course recruitment. So why should someone be a part of your community? What's in it for them? The second is once they're in, you have to look at what is the recognition that they get, right? I mean, so if I'm a part of this community, what do I get out of it? I mean, am I made to feel special? So many people address this with badges, leaderboards, and like profiles, but often, what people really want is like an interview format where I can easily share my content with you. Beyond the likes and the comments, I'm craving a little attention, and user-generated content actually helps with that. The third R of community building is the reward piece, and that's where maybe I have awards that are applicable only to members of this community, or you get to be a part of my speaker bureau, or maybe I promote your content on my site and say, star contributor of the week or the month. So definitely you would have to look at user-generated content. The only consideration though is, given the levels of participation that exist on social media, if your community isn't, let's say, at least 1,000 strong, to get that, bare minimum 100 odd activists kind of users and maybe 10 contributors, you are going to feel that you're doing all the work and the rest are just, at best pushing one like button. So I think when you start a community, you've got to be prepared for doing most of the work, and maybe 1% will contribute content to you. And but that's cool too. And you have to find a way to use that content so that others get more encouraged. And I think Facebook has done a fabulous job of making it really, really easy for people to contribute, or feel they have contributed. So the shares, the likes, I mean, that's really the magic sauce of Facebook. But what's cool is that now there are lots of other portals which allow you to do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
So just a small thing here. So I've been part of this Paul Writers, one of the community of Paul Writer, which is CMO India, and so probably the engagement has been one of the best, and that was something that I was looking for the last 5 years since I joined social media. So the quality of engagement, the Indian participation, that is what I was looking, because I was there, I was looking at many of the US folks having very intelligent conversation, and then I was looking at Indian context and I couldn't find any. So this is something awesome. So Jesse, we have just crossed 2 minutes over our scheduled time. So yeah, any last thoughts, and say probably do you want to share to people where they can follow you, they can probably track you and say.
Sure. So one is, of course, do join CMO. It's a group. It's on Facebook. It's easier really to build a community on Facebook. One of the parting thoughts I would give someone who's building their new portal is I wouldn't rely too much on a LinkedIn or a Facebook or a Twitter as sole platform, because they keep changing the rules.
Right.
So the community that Malhar mentioned, which is, it's actually a group, not a page, because we actually very active when the rules changed and no one saw our page. So it moved from being organic to completely paid, which makes sense for us. So we moved to group. We know that in a year or two, they're going to change the rules. If you take LinkedIn, they've just changed the rules on groups again.
Absolutely.
Right? So first it was private, then it went public. Now they removed the public. You're always playing someone else's rules. So my advice would be to use these platforms to build your community, but finally you've got to host your own platform. And this is whether you're a small or big company, there are all kinds of platforms. You've got to own your database. You have to be able to shape it the way they want it to be, not rely on an external rule. So that's my only advice. Have a strategy, have a roadmap, and make sure that you own the content.
Thanks, Jesse.
Just compile your.
And thanks for joining us. So it was really wonderful to have you, and it's, as always, it's so good to chat with you and understand your thoughts. So thank you very much, and say all the participants, yes, thank you for joining. So we'll come back again next week with another awesome guest. All right. Thank you so much, and good night to you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.